Howdy folks, you're watching Brass Bear Range. I'm Darryl and welcome back to the reloading room. Before we begin, I'd like to do a quick check clear of a firearm that I'll be demonstrating later on in the video. This is a Winchester Model 67A Chamberlain 22 long rifle. It is a single shot, so no magazine to check. All we need to do is rack the bolt back and inspect the chamber. And very hard to see, but this firearm is clear. Before we begin, folks, I do have two items to cover. One, I apologize once again for the condition of the reloading room. It is getting worse because I am still preparing for this 500 round lot of 9mm I'm going to be reloading. So we got the brass nice and clean and everything, but that's kind of what you see going on back here. The other thing I need to apologize for is I unfortunately was not able to get any footage of the auctioneers at work at the auction on Saturday. They politely requested that I not record them for their privacy, and of course I was courteous and respected their wishes. One, I of course did not want to get thrown out of the auction, but two, you may not realize it, but gun auctioneers in particular work incredibly hard to be able to bring those auctions to you. They need to maintain their FFL licenses. They pre-fill out the paperwork for all the firearms, so the FFL process is quick and easy. Many of them waive the FFL fees that you'd pay to get a firearm transferred for you. And, you know, they got to manage all the firearms and everything that they're trying to sell and keep track of lots and get people registered. You know, there's a lot of work that goes into setting one of those up. So I was not going to take advantage of their generosity of putting the show on for us. So I respected their wishes and didn't record them. Now, they were nice enough to allow me to record all of the firearms and the rest of the lots, like the reloading equipment, the ammunition, the reloading supplies that were there as the auction was going on. So since they were nice enough to do that for us, I am going to cut the audio, and as I roll that footage, I'm going to explain a little bit on how auctions work in general and how gun auctions work. Let's have a look. Alright folks, and so how an auction works is, normally there's a preview period beforehand where buyers can come in and check out the lots or items that are up for auction and also get registered. This allows the auctioneers to focus on the selling aspect rather than trying to register everybody the day of the auction. If you show up late, most times you can still register the day of. To register, you need to provide your driver's license and some other information. That way, if you try and bid on an item and leave without paying, they have the information necessary to hold you responsible for your payments. Once you register, you'll be provided with a unique number. Mine, for example, is 98. This allows them to differentiate between what you've bid on and what another person's bid on at the same auction. On the day of the auctioneer will bring an item up to bid, and he'll start at high, say $1,000, and he'll come down in varying increments based on his starting number until finally either he hits a number that he feels is too low and he'll end the auction on that item, or somebody bids. And to bid on an item, you'll raise your number placard above your head and that lets them know you're going to bid. It's important not to wave your arms around over your head in an auction, otherwise they'll think you're bidding. That actually happened at this one. And once somebody bids, the bidding war begins. And that's when the auctioneer will start increasing the amount in the same increments he was decreasing it. So an item may go from $500 down to $200 in increments of 25, and then the final bid may be for $425, also increasing in increments of 25. Once people stop bidding, the final bidder will win the lot, and he'll have to pay the final amount that was announced by the auctioneer. To get his item, he'll have to file his FFL transfer paperwork, pass a background check, and then if everything comes back okay, he can leave with his firearm. This works just the same as any other firearms dealer or shop. The primary difference being that at an auction, you will bid up the price until people stop bidding, whereas at a dealer or a shop, there's an agreed upon price already on the firearm that you may be able to haggle down a few dollars. It allows the auction to be a little more interesting than walking into the shop. And that, folks, is how an auction works, gun auction in particular. To discuss some of the prices that some of those firearms went for, things that you and I would be looking for, like more modern hunting rifles, like Savage bolt actions and Winchester bolt actions with synthetic stocks. I saw some brand new in the box go for for between $300 and $500. Very reasonable price. Definitely cheaper than buying them from a big chain store or even sometimes your local gun shops. So excellent price on these things. And there were some fun guns, as we'll call them, like semi-automatic SKSs, M&P 15, the Smith & Wesson model of the AR-15 rifle, some AK-47s, different things like that went for reasonable prices as well, like in the 500 range. So a little bit of everything for everyone. There are also some outliers too, some very collectible pieces. The firearm that I thought was going to go for the most actually took second place in there. There was a Postal Meter M1 carbine. So this is an authentic M1 carbine from World War II. It was probably used in the war. That sold for $2,000, just that one gun. That really shows you how collectible those M1 carbines were getting. I've read stories on gun forums from older gentlemen that said, oh, when they first came back from and were military surplus, you could go down to the docks and buy a barrel of them for $50. So you can see how high the prices have come now, obviously. You get one for $2,000. But the gun I thought was going to go for the most was, there was a Colt Python. So this is a very historic .357 Magnum revolver. Colt, they're now starting to get back into the revolver game, but they used to make some excellent, very high quality revolvers, all hand fitted. And Colt Python was one of them. It was actually one of their first models. It was their first model chamber for .357 Magnum. When the cartridge was released, the Colt Python was very close behind it. In fact, they may have released together. Not too sure on the dates on when the Pythons came out. But they're incredibly collectible now because Colt got out of the revolver game for so long. So it's one singular revolver, and it's a 6-shot .357 Magnum. And it was in great shape. $1,800. That's the buyer, they also pay a 10% buyer's premium and 6% sales tax. So it did go for over $2,000, if I'm doing my math right. I think I am. That's incredible. Incredible. But there were a lot of pieces there for people like you and I that just want to get a gun, be able to enjoy it, and shoot it. Now, of course, these prices are affected by who bids on what. And that's some of the intricacies of a gun auction that we need to discuss, is the type of people that are there and how it affects bids on specific items. So when you go to a gun auction, you got three types of dudes there. You got dudes like you and I, and they're the people that are looking for good deals on reloading supplies or guns that they want. You've got the dudes that have more brains than mine. I hate making fun of people, but these are the people that they tend to be older in age. They have great collections as it is, but they're missing a few pieces, or they collect a specific type of firearm and they want to continue to expand the collection. So they go to a local auction, they see the piece they want or need, and they start bidding it up, well past what it actually should go for. And then you've got FFLs, the licensed firearm dealers that will go to an auction, buy in bulk, because they can turn around and make a profit on this. Case in point there, a younger gentleman came with his wife, and I kept hearing number 77, 77 called at the end of these bids. When I actually started paying attention and counting what he was purchasing, spent at least $8,000, bought 40 guns. He had a binder with him. He had that sheet that I showed you in the previous video with all the lots, and he had prices marked on them. Those prices are what he could get them for and still make money. So he bought 40 guns at this auction, bidding some things that I was interested in just out of my reach and what I brought or what I thought they were worth, because he could still make money on them. So he bought 40 guns. He got 40 guns in and out quicker than I got my one, because he had his FFL in it, makes the process easier. And he left. And now he's going to take those guns that he outbid us guys that would have had fun with them, just enough that we couldn't get them. He's going to make money on them. So that's the unfortunate reality of every firearms auction, especially larger ones. You're going to run into guys with more brains than money. You're going to run into FFLs. So don't let those discourage you. You will find good deals. Case in point, the firearm that I showed you earlier that I check cleared. This is a Winchester Model 67A. It's a single shot, bolt action 22 rifle. I paid $50 for this. $64.13 after my buyer's premium and Pennsylvania state sales tax. I don't have a single shot 22 rifle yet, so I went to this auction looking for a 22 long rifle in particular because this is probably the best cartridge to teach new shooters, especially young children on. There's absolutely no recoil from this cartridge. Even in a very small revolver, it's not going to buck up. It's just going to shoot. They also tend to be very safe, at least these single shots. So to work this particular one, you pull the bolt back, chamber your round by hand, you put one in, and you close the bolt. But it's not ready to shoot. Most bolt action rifles, working the bolt, will cock the firing pin so you can pull the trigger and it'll go off. Being here, the firing arm is not making a click. It's not discharging. That's because as you're sitting a kid down on a bench, and you're telling them, okay, this is how you hold it, and you're explaining them, keep your finger off the trigger, and teaching them how to properly handle it, because properly handling the firearm is far more important than teaching them how to actually shoot the thing accurately. Unless, of course, they're shooting at game, which they should not be with this, unless it's a squirrel or something, but they need to know how to handle it to be safe. So you're teaching them to handle it, and if they do pull the trigger, or you say, go ahead and try the trigger, see how that feels. The gun will not go off. You need to pull back this cocking knob, and now the firearm will go off. You'll hear it click. Only when I pull this firing knob back. And it also has a safety. If I flip this, rotate the gun around here, this switch here, if I flip this up, it makes this a dead trigger again. This gun can't go off. If I hit the firing or the cocking knob, it can't go off. It's totally blocked off the spring in here, and it cannot discharge. If I rotate this back down, it rotates the spring so it can drop, and there's a pin that lines up here that actually gets blocked off, and it lines back up with its notch. So when you pull the trigger, now it can drop. Incredibly safe to teach a child on. I'll be getting married here shortly, starting my own family. I needed one of these to be able to educate my children how to safely shoot a firearm. I can't hand them my single shot 12 gauge and say, here, try this. That's not good. Don't do that, please. So I got an excellent deal on that. That gun's worth about $75 to $100 on a site like Gunbroker. Now those tend to be in a little bit better shape than this one, but it's a firearm, and I got it for $64.13. Excellent price. And because this gun auction is set up that you don't pay the transfer fees, if my local gun shop would have had this at the same price, $50, I would have paid with sales tax and the transfer fee $85 to $90. I saved about $30 on this gun, buying it through the gun auction. But my biggest score, if you checked out our social media, you saw the pictures I posted of the lots of brass that I purchased. For $64.13, I scored, grab this big guy here, 1,018 usable pieces of 30-06 brass. This is $250 worth of brass alone, sometimes a little more depending on how the market's shifting. I scored one container, two container, and I can't quite reach that. I scored 3 containers of 30 brass. Between 892 and 992, lost count the 100 somewhere, of 30 brass. 202 of them are even primed already. So that saves me 4 cents a reload. You know, it depends on what primers cost in your area. It'll save me 4 cents. But among that lot was labeled as hundreds of 30 brass. It didn't mention the mixed brass that was in there as well. So I have 41 pieces of 308 brass, 69 pieces of 260 Remington. This is a little harder to find. 175 pieces of 3220 brass. This is it's getting rare. It was mainly a black powder cartridge. back in the 1870s. Winchester Chamberlain rifles and this stuff. They started reloading this with, what did they call it? Their clean bore powders. I think that was Remington, meaning smokeless, but it quickly dropped out of popularity. More powerful cartridges were coming out. 9mm will beat this stuff. I got here some 14 pieces of 7.62 by 54R. I shoot a Mosin, so that was excellent. Reload that. A couple pieces of 7mm BR. This is a pretty popular bench rest cartridge for long-range target shooting. Not enough brass to really do anything with, but got that. 8 pieces of 7mm Mauser. Like, this is 7mm German Mauser, not like 7mm08 or 7mm mag. And there's a lot of more oddball mixed stuff. So here, for example, I got a piece of 348 Winchester brass. There's about 4 of them in there. Getting very hard to find. And a 375 H&H mag piece of brass. That's a popular African big game cartridge. Like, this thing's dropped off and there's just this piece of brass mixed in there. And all these lower count pieces of brass was in with that 3220. So you didn't know what was in there. It was all mixed in, all covered up by this stuff. So I got an excellent deal on it. $64.13 for all of this brass. Just $500 worth of brass sitting here. And those are the kinds of deals you can find at a gun auction if you're willing to put up with the guys with more brains than money and the FFLs. You can find excellent deals like this that on websites like Gunbroker you would pay more for, because there you're on an international scale. There's people that are bidding on this stuff from all over, whereas I was in a room with probably 100 people. And they did not allow phone or online bidding. They had some absentee bids, but I think one absentee bid actually won a lot. So, you know, being in a room with that much smaller amount of people, and they're there for specific things that they know are going to be there, you can get excellent deals like this 22 I purchased, all this brass. So, if you guys enjoy auctions, or if you like getting great deals on firearm stuff, I highly recommend checking out your local gun auctions. It can be great fun. I was rather disappointed that the auctioneers wouldn't let me record. You know, like I said, I respected their privacy and I didn't, but those guys were great. Half of the fun of going to an auction is spending all of your money. And the other half is watching the auctioneers do their thing. You can tell these guys have been doing it for a long time. It's like a set of synchronized swimmers. Two people get in a bid war with each other, and you know, an auctioneer will point back and forth to, okay, I need your bid, oh, I need yours, oh, I need yours. Well, both of them that were up on the block were at the same time, like two synchronized swimmers, getting these bids, and it was great. They were fantastic. They made the whole event fun. And of course, you know, they put on the event and were generous enough to do that. So it was a good time, and I highly recommend you check it out. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed our presentation here on how gun auction works and some of the prices you can expect. Please keep leaving comments on some suggestions, feedback on the videos. Stop in and say hi. You know, we really appreciate you guys coming in so far and the support you've been giving us. We hope to get some giveaways and stuff going later on, so you know, remember to check out our Patreon and everything there. Subscribe to our social media so you can keep up with like our pictures as we go and do some cool things, and we'll have polls and things on there. So just keep an eye out for that stuff. Come in and say howdy, like I said, and you know, we hope you guys continue to enjoy what we're putting out. Remember, folks, be safe and have fun.